And welcome, everyone. You're listening to iTalk 106.7 FM, the voice of the mountain. I'm your host, Janine Ford. So glad you're rolling with us this afternoon. We are now, I just want to mention too, throw this out there, we are officially in stage 2 fire restrictions today. So just remember that one. So we've moved up a grade, stage 2 fire restrictions, warning for everybody. I'm very pleased to have White Mountain Association of Realtors here with us today to talk about some of the challenges facing the White Mountains right now. And really, it's kind of a thing that's been all over our state a little bit with these renewables. And we're talking about the wind turbines and the solar fields and all those things descending on us. And I have Brenda Saminsky. She is the president of White Mountain Association of Realtors. I have Jack Greason, Government Affairs, and then also Brian Anderson. He's the president-elect. Welcome, guys. How you doing this afternoon?
Good morning. We're doing great, Janine.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Very good. Very good. Well, we're thrilled to have you. I want to start off with just to ask you guys what your biggest concerns are right now for the White Mountains with, because it seems like a ton of people want to move up here, and then now they're kind of hearing about these wind turbines, or they're not. And, are we disclosing that? What's going on with it? And do we know where is safe if you don't want to live under these, But I just wanted to ask your concerns. Why don't we start with you, Brenda?
Well, our concern is getting all the facts. As the association president, we do represent as an association our real estate professionals that live and work in this area. So we also, serve the buyers, sellers, property owners, ranchers, small business owners, and the great people of the White Mountain area. And our biggest concern is not just going with the hearsay, but doing our due diligence and trying to bring in all the facts so that we can share that with the people that we represent. And
right.
It's been a couple of years since this has come to light. At least I live in Apache County, and the people have been bringing this information to us for the last couple of years, and now it's coming kind of to a head, and more people are learning. And it is our goal to work together to bring facts together so that we can properly get the information out so that people can make a decision as to what they want to do. We are hearing people that are looking in the area and they're concerned, and they're trying to decide what really will be coming and is that where they want to live.
Right.
And that's concerning.
Yeah. And see, what you're bringing up, I've been messaging the Board of Supervisors, just begging them, just say, guys, just give us a map. Give us a map. Is there a place we'll be safe away from them? Or because when they didn't, for 2 years, have been begging for setbacks, and then they came up with 720 feet or something from your doorstep. They actually moved them in closer. And so then that's where I was like, whoa, we did not get the ordinance stuff we were begging for. But just to beg them, just say, I think you need full disclosure. I think you need to let people know where the possibilities are or where we're safe to buy, right? And if you want to give people a decision of, do they want to sell? Should I sell quickly and get out of here? At least be transparent. And we looked at other counties where they had minimal ordinance changes, at least a half-mile setback, and they're not being sued, like Cochise. And that's where this community, these ordinance things came up, the little thing that they're trying to run now. But at every turn, I just beg, I'm just like, just be transparent. Give us a map. And it's just dead air, and I invite them on all the time, and there's just nothing. So that's the scary part for me, as a property owner too up here, right? Okay, Jack Greason, Government Affairs, what are your biggest concerns?
Yeah, thanks for having us on this morning. Looking at these projects and looking at the bigger dialogue that we're trying to have in your area of the state, the thing that I'm most concerned with is the lack of, I think, transparency in local government regarding what this is going to wind up meaning for a community. I also have concerns regarding with the speed at which your legislative bodies are rushing to try and get these approved. And there are good reasons why they're trying to do it, but unfortunately, it's hard to justify considering the community-wide impacts that these projects are going to wind up having. When you look at the size and scale of these projects, they're going to be some of the largest or the largest projects in the state of Arizona, and probably the largest projects nationally here in the continental U.S. And for perspective for your listeners, when you think about this, these projects will be visible for somewhere in a range of 25 to 45 miles away. So you may not be living at the base of it, but when you talk about a project that's going to produce, 1,150 megawatts, that's looking at something like 70,000 acres of usable land. That's an estimate, by the way. And you'll be able to see them from far, far, far away. And so this isn't just going to affect the communities of Vernon and Springerville. You're talking about impacts, across the region there. And, municipal leaders have a responsibility to tell their constituents, what this means, what the implications are, and more importantly, why the rush. I think that's an honest conversation that they need to have. And we would be remiss if we didn't actually understand that, there are other layers of pressure here, not just from, county supervisors, but, from the state government as well. Governor Hobbs is obviously pushing for the construction of these projects, and there is an intersection into conversations around data centers and other things right now. And so, as communities, as elected leaders, they have a responsibility to, carry the dialogue in a community to say this is the contribution we're going to wind up making, and the community should, in my opinion, have the opportunity to assess whether or not they want to be a participant in that. And by the best that I can tell, they are not having that honest dialogue with the community, and I think we're starting to see that not just in the WMAR membership, but also in the constituent feedback that we're getting from the region up there.
Right, and that's the biggest thing is the lack of transparency, and also, this sounds bad, but it's like Governor Hobbs and the state lands gal, our boards of supervisors are riding with them, and we're seeing these state lands and their big pushes at we can't tell people what to do on their own private land. Well, in Mesa, Arizona, my property I have in Mesa, I can't put a 6-story building up. It's called planning and zoning, being a good neighbor, just at least letting us know. And you have some rules and regulations, but they're putting nothing in for the little guys. I think, and what you're saying too, I think it could be bigger than all of us realize. I mean, you're talking big energy, you're talking big politicians, the $98 billion that was slammed in the last 15 minutes into the big, beautiful bill by some sellouts, the one senator from Utah. And almost all of that $98 billion is for Northern Arizona. So a lot of us have to look and read between the lines. Oh, wow, we might have just been sold out here, but just tell us what's going on, but they're afraid to, open that can of worms and tell us, I think. Brian, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think all three of you, Brenda, Jack, and you, Janine, kind of hit the nail on the head, and that's the transparency from the government entities that are pushing this through. And it really feels like they're just trying to shove it down our throats without giving us all of the information and the pertinent facts that are necessary for our residents, to make their own decisions on this. And that's what I'm hearing from my peers in the real estate community and from, property owners. And they don't know exactly why this is all happening so quickly, most importantly, and then, how is it going to affect them and their property values? And that's what boils down to us as the realtors in the White Mountains.
Yeah, and that's the sad thing is let us know where we stand, what we're doing, and it has to put you guys up against a big wall because, you're trying to take these people around to sell them houses, or they might be calling you and saying, should I sell my house? And you guys have to have those answers too, right?
Well, we'd like to have those answers, but we don't necessarily have them in most instances. And Janine, you brought up a point. Show us the maps. Where are these projects going in exactly? And I haven't seen that. I don't know if Jack has.
Yeah, and there's not the ones that are already in and are mainly in Navajo. They have that map because they're in. They were they're through. But Jack, have you seen some of the other prospective maps?
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, the maps are available, and you can get a sense of where they're going to go. But the map doesn't necessarily give people a good sense of the size and scale of what is going to be going in, right? You're looking at a topographical map, you're going to see some lines, and arguably they're in places that people might assume aren't environmentally sensitive or aren't high risk or they're going to have minimal impact. And the reality is they are in some of the flattest, most highly sensitive areas in your region. And we've got some anecdotal feedback from our colleagues in New Mexico and other places where they started to put these projects in. And again, this is starting to matter to communities, to investors, to, home buyers, particularly people who are trying to relocate to the area, say coming out of the valley from Phoenix and wanting to come up here. It's, they want to move in under the largest single solar and wind installation in the continental U.S.
Yeah.
It's hard to really put that into perspective just looking at the topographical map.
Yeah, and the other thing is that they can't close off those other ones, I'm told, like the rest of the state lands that aren't in the map now. They can't close them off because legally, I called it our boards of supervisors because Real AZ was over both Navajo and Apache, right? So they were rolling together, Navajo and Apache. People in Apache are saying, well, why should I care about Navajo? Oh my gosh, they've all been rolling together. They've been under the same umbrella. But the hard part is that they look at these maps, and the reason they can't say, okay, you're all safe here, I've been told, is that the other state lands, all the checkerboarded across, right? The other state lands, the private lands, that's why that other company has sent all these letters to individuals. If they have more than 10, if you have more than 10 acres, we can put a wind turbine on yours and you will make this much, So they can't say it's a safe zone because more people may just get engaged and more companies. And the other danger is with these 7 other counties putting in restrictions, the minimal ones that our signing thing is going on right now up here, that the people are trying to get the citizens ordinance, which the county kind of blocked us and said it has to be 15%. They made that decision. And so it's going to be insurmountable, that 7,000 mark. But those are those minimals that we saw in Cochise County, just a half-mile setback, right? And we can't even get those. So the 7 other counties, when I'm told Cochise, some companies moved off, and guess what? They want to head here because they've had other counties put in protections for the little people, right? And now more are descending on us. So and the hurry part of it that you guys mentioned is because there are some deadlines on those on the big pots of money. They have to show 5% that they've invested in. They have to show, and our counties have made it easier because they said if they've so much as raised their hand or spent anything, they're in, right? In those last ordinance changes. So it's like they've made it as easy as possible for the renewables. And I don't know how big or who's standing on whose necks. You know what I mean? I mean, it might be so big for all of us, bigger than all of us, that we can't stop it. But just tell us. Just tell us. And there's something that you guys do. It's called a disclosure statement, right? And Jack, maybe you can speak to this. That's what about 2 years ago I started calling down to the state and state board of realtors, and I said, "Are you guys putting this in your disclosure statements? Do you know or have you heard of any wind or solar? You know what I mean? And is that happening anywhere?"
Yeah, it's been an ongoing discussion for our board at the moment to try and understand what are the implications of this, right? Every real estate agent has to act in the best interest of a buyer and a seller, and they're responsible for disclosing any pertinent fact related to the long-term value of a piece of property that, again, they're working either side of. And so as a result of that, they have to be responsible to potential buyers to say, yes, there are renewable energy projects that are coming in. They may be within your line of sight. And there could theoretically be financial impacts on those properties. And there's significant data to show that there are and can be impacts to property values. The interesting stake on this is something that we've said multiple times now is given the size and scope of these projects, there is no good data out there that says what the actual impacts will wind up being. There's fairly extensive research that has looked at various projects across the continental U.S. to say, they do have impacts. Some of those impacts can be mitigated through visual buffers and other things like that. But you're talking, a large swath of land here in eastern Arizona that is relatively flat, that has long visual lines of sight. And so for realtor members, they keep coming to us and saying, hey, what do we do? Like, this isn't technically part of our disclosure process, but we know it's going to wind up impacting. So we're advising all of our agents to say, go ahead, disclose what you have available. And right now that can and probably will wind up resulting in, lower amounts of sales. We don't have data yet to say what the impact has been today. But I fully expect within the next few years, if these projects move ahead, we'll start to see a decrease in sales regionally.
Yeah, and I know that the green sites have admitted it's like an 11% property value drop, right? But when you call back to the locations of the early adapters, and mind you, these are shorter windmills in Oklahoma and Texas, those people out there, those real estate within 5 miles of those turbine fields, okay, dropped as high as 50%. So now there's more and more coming out, but the green people were squashing that as much as possible, you know?
Yep.
And I don't know that we can actually put a percentage on in our area because every area is different.
Right.
We have people that move here because of our views and our openness. How do you do that? So
Yeah.
if you're going to start wanting to get percentages and stuff, we do need, somebody local that can do independent reviews and appraisals of what do we see for our local area.
And I
It is
did,
unique.
yeah. And I did ask about that. And unfortunately, assessors and stuff like that locally, they said, we don't have any drop, any property drop or value or anything that we've seen any problem of in our area. I go, no. You don't need to be looking at our area. You have to look at where the turbines are. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of their go-to is they're saying, we haven't seen any problems. And then the other thing we heard from the one board of supervisors, I don't know if you guys saw the soundbite, but the one thing we heard is they're considered a really cool thing. A lot of people like these. It's going to be like Disneyland. Oh my gosh! I about
But see, that's where we need to talk to the people who do valuations of property. We need to talk to appraisers.
Right, and those appraisers need to be in places where there have been turbines for a while, like Texas and Oklahoma. But what we've been going on here, our board of supervisors, they said they just considered right here locally. Well, if you go out to Chevelon Canyon, where there used to be people that lived there, now it's a little ghost town. They don't live under them anymore. They moved away. And so that's the scary part is that because we don't have research here locally, they're not going to Texas and Oklahoma and other places, or even considering like where, especially for ranchers and stuff, especially like in Norway where their reindeer all moved off. Now they're illegal and they're shutting all the wind turbines down and they're trying to lure the reindeer back. And the saddest part, I think, in what we learned down at the state legislature when they were trying to put some of this thing through with Dave Marshall, some of the lawmakers were noting that only 12% worldwide are remediated and dug back out, and no one's giving us the answers of the 4,000 tons of rusting rebar, steel, and junk under each one of these that are going to be left behind. Our board of supervisors is allowing them to cover them with 2 feet of dirt in the end. Okay, 2 feet of dirt. And other counties are making them remediate them 10 feet down so we can grow our native grasses and stuff back, right? But they'll never be totally removed. So nobody's giving us the answers on the Coconino Aquifer, So it's a big, sad, scary situation right now. But now you guys did a letter to the Board of Supervisors, and what did that letter say basically?
Yeah, the letter basically says that we want them to actually initially stop all activity around these projects, and then basically gives a laundry list of activities that we would like them to pursue in the best interest of the community. And you've hit a couple. We've talked about a couple of elements of this, which are primarily doing an economic impact study so that we can say definitively what are going to be the impacts to real estate, to property. Look at actually understanding what it's going to do to the wildlife in the region, because obviously that is a huge tourism driver there in your region. And you don't need to go far or search hard through the corridors of the internet to find information just about the flight kill, and you've already talked about reindeer moving away and other animal impacts. But then more importantly, it's like, how do you mitigate the actual financial impacts for property owners within the region? I know for people who have properties vested within the area, they're going to gain financially, but those people will likely end up selling their property and moving away as well. Seems to be the expectation that we've seen. You brought up Chevron Butte, which is the largest project currently in the state of Arizona. We're now talking about a project that would more than double that size, and I don't think a lot of people understand that. But then also looking at, the benefits to the community, right? There is not going to be, the same predictable tax revenue from these projects due to the incentives to help encourage and bring them here from the state. But then further than that, you've got two companies here that are trying to build these projects, one native to the U.S. and one from Spain. And now, those companies are going to wind up selling these projects off to the local power carriers. And then you brought up a great point. There's 4,000 tons of concrete and rebar that's going to be left below the ground, and then now that's upon the community to go and deal with, right?
Yeah.
And so,
and the sickest
there's
thing, the sickest part of this whole thing, Andy Biggs shared this. Andy Biggs hates these. He thinks it's just absolutely a blight on the land, and he said it's the sickest part is it looks like we will get a mini nuclear within 10 years, right? These things stand for time and all eternity. We just need a bridge. And the problem is the mini nuclear sits on 5 acres of land, probably out, they think, in St. John's, right? It adds 133 jobs. But then do you realize that the $98 billion, they feasibly could build them and never use them, guys? Build them and never use them. That is the sickest part. They can grab the $98 billion. The Spanish company has told people in the meeting, hey, we're going to put these up. We'll be here 2 years and then whatever. So the boards of supervisors don't even have built in a managing company long term, even 10 years, right? And there's no power companies on the hook for them. Nobody.
Yep.
So they just build them and they can leave them standing for time and eternity, ruin the lands, and then put a mini nuclear in, and then we're just stuck with all those, So that's the saddest part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would say to you, you talked a little earlier about the signature gathering, for your listeners out there.
Yeah.
The more signatures that you guys can gather, I think your deadline is July 15th? Does that sound right?
I think it's July 8th. And so
Okay.
It's very tight. And because in most counties it's 10%, but because the county is, that railing and stuff, they were really they just immediately notified, no, we require 15%. So it sounds like we have to do the 7,000, which is such a hard toe in 2.5 weeks, that we had originally. So I don't know how that's going to go. But there's other things too. Everybody's been trying to see if there's any way we can, do anything else legally, if we could find an attorney that would work for, because, that's the other thing too. These big giant projects kind of prey in areas and on people that have no money to fight them legally. So, because you can get an injunction, but can we afford to get an injunction? You know what I mean? That's the scary thing. We're trying to think of all these things. A lot of people are, but we're kind of stuck right now. Over in New Mexico, they had Val Kilmer, and he took the lead, and he paid for it, and they won. But we need a Val Kilmer here.
Yeah, well, the Association of Realtors is trying to do everything that we can to help, and we're willing to have our office act as a petition signing location. So if there are those out there interested in signing the petition, please swing by the board office. We'll gladly accept your signature to try and help get things done. And frankly, if you miss the deadline this time, I would encourage everybody to continue pushing for a November. To try and get this on the ballot in November as well.
Whatever we can do. Yes, injunctions, recalls, whatever they're gonna start doing, and we so appreciate you guys taking the lead on this. I think the White Mountain Association of Realtors, you guys and your letter. I encourage you guys to go to their website and read the letter that they sent. It was incredible. You guys did a nice job on that.
Thank you, Janine. And just for your listeners' information, those petitions are available at the White Mountain Association of Realtors office on K Street in Lakeside, Realty Executive's office in Pinetop, Kenny Properties office over in Show Low, and Brenda's office at Ponderosa, White Mountain Realty in Springerville.
Okay, well, you guys are wonderful. Thank you so much for doing all you can do and if anybody has any questions, I would suggest asking them. And also I encourage everybody, continue to have dialogue, write to the Board of Supervisors, every member of Board of Supervisors, and tell them, guys, what's going on? Just tell us, be transparent. I know they put up more information on their website, on the Navajo County website, but it's the same stuff they've been telling us. I called it the No Authority Tour. They keep saying, we have no authority, but 7 other counties had authority. You know what I mean? Yeah. So they throw their hands in the air. We can't do anything. Sorry, I'm making fun. Sorry. Okay, guys, anything else you want to add?
I think we just need to keep educating our people in Apache County and in Navajo County. We need to help them get the information. The more they know, the more they'll stand up and have their voice heard.
Very good point, Brenda. Exactly. Guys, thank you so much. So appreciate you. And again, guys, keep it right here. iTalk 1067 FM, the voice of the mountain. And also you can look this up and look this information up on our podcast. You can listen to this show as well. Okay, guys, thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate you. And if you have anything else, don't hesitate. This is called the voice of the mountain. It's your voice, okay?
Thank you, Janine.
Thank you so much, Brenda, Jack, and
Thank
Brian.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. You guys have a great evening. Okay, everybody, keep it right here. iTalk 1067 FM, the voice of the mountain.